Good morning. Hi. I'm host Derek, and I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. Good morning. So the possible titles of this live stream I had in mind were two possible titles. I didn't just right away go with this one. I went back and forth between the two possible titles. Possible title one, Socrates, history's worst teacher, which is what I want. He definitely is history's worst teacher. He predicates his method of teaching on the fundamentally flawed notion that you should get people to discover what you're trying to teach them instead of just telling them, which is incredibly dumb. But the other possible title I was going to go with is another topic I've covered before, which is, very dumb person, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is so dumb. People think he's smart. I have never heard a good idea out of that guy. He's effective. He's rich. He's successful at making a business. He is not a smart person. Anybody who thinks Elon Musk is a smart person is themselves probably not a smart person. But regardless, what do you mean by the worst? The Socratic method. Well, what do you think I mean by the worst, utter self? The answer's already within you. No, it's not. You asked me a question. What do I think? What do I mean by the worst? I mean, he doesn't know how to teach. He doesn't know how to teach because instead of telling people what he wants them to know, he asks them questions. How dumb is that? Yeah, it's Socrates' function bias exactly. I was told this by the master teacher who I worked under, a mentor teacher that I worked under, who taught me how to teach, basically, Mr. Samuelson. And he had to correct this behavior in me. I tried to get the kids to discover the answer by Socratic methoding them. He's like, that's not teaching. That is not teaching anybody anything. Now I understand it as what I was doing was this. I was saying, here, I want you guys to demonstrate intuition to me. I'm going to give you hints and you intuit the answer. Or I'm going to frame walk you. That's the other thing the Socratic method is good for. Socratic method is great for debate. It's a great way to frame walk people. But it is not a good way to teach anybody anything. Now, the people who might want to be taught like that are probably INTPs, ENTPs. They kind of want to be taught like that. But everybody else, it's a fucking disaster. Having been a classroom teacher for a lot of years, I can tell you, Socrates had no fucking concept about how to teach. Okay, he may have had good ideas about lots of things, but regarding how to teach, he had no fucking clue. Now, you're saying, Legends Falls, is it fair to equate smart with good ideas? Is that a function bias? Well, yes, it is. For sure it is. But this is a function bias I want to impose upon the world. Specifically that TI is smart, TE is effective. Let's start using words better, right? Elon Musk, it would be a completely wrong title to say, Elon Musk, history's least effective person. That would not be correct, right? But Elon Musk, very dumb person, is correct. He is not smart. This is his idea of smart. Think about it. Just think about this, okay? Now, Socrates is smart. He's just a terrible teacher. Elon Musk is dumb. Elon Musk got frustrated by the West Side traffic in LA. This was his brilliant idea. Let's dig a giant tunnel underneath the city. I mean, that's not a good idea. That's a stupid fucking idea. It's so much easier to go up than down. Want to have another layer of freeways above? That's a better idea, and it took me half of a second to come up with it. What are his good ideas? Let's have space travel. We already have that, retard. Let's have Let's have electric cars. We already have those too, dummy. Right? Is anybody else seeing what I'm seeing here? This is not a smart person. This is a dumb man. Musk is a dumb man. He may be very successful, he may be very effective, may be a great businessman, but he is not a smart person. You know, I had to quote Rick and Morty to my client's mom last night. She called me and she's frustrated because her ENTP son has started a business and it's become successful like really quickly. He started getting a lot of orders. I'm not sure what he's doing. She didn't go into detail, but and now she's having a hell of a hard time getting to do his schoolwork because it seems so incredibly inane and pointless. And I've spent years telling her how incredibly inane and pointless it is. So she called me last night and she's just like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, you know, in this instance, the thing you want your kid to do is correct about the task that you're talking about. There's no card type. He was trying to half-ass it. He was like, well, I'm only going to do the very minimum I have to do for turning it in right now, even though it's going to cost me more time on the back end. That's a textbook ENTP move. And I said, no, you got to get it. You got to be a little bit disciplined with yourself and just go, fuck it, I'm going to do it right now, do it correctly now, and spend a little bit more time now, but save myself a lot of time down here. When you see that situation occurring, you have to just buckle down and do it. Don't give in to your ENTP impulses, but I want to play. I want to do my thing I want to do right now. You know, if you're going to be forced to do something you don't want to do, give it your actual attention so that you don't end up having to spend more time down the line on it, you know? Yes, Musk will regain my respect if he invents flying pants. Now, that's assuming the pants can fly with me in them. If it's just the pants flying around by themselves, I'm not impressed. If he just puts a pair of pants on, attaches it to a drone, and flies it around, I will not consider him smart. And I agree. I agree with you, Email the Impacts. Elon Musk is more handsome than I am. I'm not going to dispute that at all, okay? My client has minor speech impediment history. I have minor speech impediment history. I had to go to a speech therapist in elementary school to learn how to say my R's and also to get rid of a lisp. Okay, so he went to an Ivy League university. Another good indication that probably a person is not particularly smart is they're able to get into an Ivy League university. That means they spent way too much, they did way too well on their schoolwork to be smart. To be smart, you have to hold your schoolwork in contempt. Almost all of it, you know, because after all, you didn't choose it. It's not a consensual arrangement, right? You didn't say, I want to take this class. Even if you're in college, chances are it's not really a consensual arrangement. You've been sort of directed there by your parents, and no, it doesn't. Failing to do schoolwork, failing school doesn't make you smart. But succeeding very, very well at school probably makes you dumb. Because if you got a 4.0, you're either dumb or you've got some awful tiger parents, right? Because it's not worth doing that well on. It's not worth putting that much energy into, right? It's like, if I'm going to get a 4.0 in high school, I've got to do all my homework. But most of those homework assignments aren't worth doing. So if you're a smart person, you're not going to do well at school. That's simply the truth. It's like, if I had let's try to talk about math for a second because it's easy to discuss how it's taught and learned and stuff. Let's say I had a math assignment that was trying to teach me a certain concept, and they gave me 20 example problems to do to learn it. Well, I might learn the concept after 1 or 2 example problems. I don't need to do the rest of them. I don't want to do the rest of them. You're wasting my time. I mean, are you giving me this math homework because you just want to force me to engage in pointless labor at home, or because you want me to learn this particular concept? If it's to learn the concept, I already learned it, so there's no point in me doing any more work on it. Now, you might say, well, I want to drill it into your head. Okay, well, at that point, remember, I'm the student. I'm learning, not you, so shut the fuck up. I'm the boss here. The student is the boss, not the teacher. That's how it should be. Math is not racist, no. Math can't be racist. Neither can architecture. That's a racist building. What makes it racist? It's too square. It just screams race war. Square buildings scream race war to me. Is being smart the new cool? Unfortunately, no. No, it's not. We'd like it to be, but it's definitely not. After all, even if you think I'm not smart, as a sort of general quality of things, I do not underestimate the stupidity of some people, of some individuals to believe stupid things. I think you overestimate the uniformity of other people's perspectives who disagree with you. Why don't Americans consider Asians minorities? I mean, I don't consider anybody a minority. I think it's a stupid word. Everybody's in some kind of a minority. I'm in a minority of people over 6'3". What? It's a stupid word. A minority. I'm in the minority on lots of different vectors, and I'm in the majority in lots of different vectors. It's a stupid word to apply to people, right? It makes no sense. This is what Funnel Hot says. Minority is a statistical term, right? It's not like a group of people. Well, legends fall. Look, I'm here to change that reality. And the sad thing is this, that unfortunately, utter self's hopeful optimism that smart's the new cool is not true. So, in other words, it is the case what Legends Fall says in the status quo, that loud stupidity is much more effective than loud intelligence. I'm loudly intelligent, but there are 17 people here. If I were, no offense to Trump lovers, even if I were to just be absolutely neutral about Trump, he's never been president, and he was just giving a speech, and you were to listen to what he's saying and what I'm saying, and you read the transcripts, you say, well, this person sounds more intelligent, and be referring to me. But I would draw vastly fewer people to listen to me speak, because being intelligent means, to some extent, removing the heat and energy from the process of politics, especially being intelligent about politics. Yeah, I have tried streaming on Twitch. I didn't like it. Socrates is history's worst teacher. Now, I don't think anybody's dumbing down smart kids because certain groups don't want to be seem to be slacking. I don't think there is anything remotely close to uniformity amongst educators regarding the students they're teaching. I think that's partly is part of the problem, right? The only thing that there's uniformity about really is what comprises administrator triggering failure. What comprises administrator triggering failure is parent complaint. Nothing to do with what you're doing in the classroom. So, no, Legends Fall, that's poor NI. That's what you call poor NI. Because it's also what you call not very manifest NE. I've encountered too many people who come at me with some manner of the leftism you talk about, and leave by their conversation with me with us having found a lot of common ground and not being adversarial with one another. The thing is, the truth is not more right or more left or more center. And the truth always wins because it's the truth. It's the best argument, which is to say, the truth and the best argument are basically the same thing. Well, but see, Legends Fall, your weak NI causes you to cherry pick your research. You're looking to prove a conclusion you already have. So it's inherently flawed process. Now, you might well say, Eric, you're talking about your own SI. In your experience, when you talk to people, you find that there's common ground to be had and that there's not nearly as large a value gap as people seem to think there is. That people like you and somebody who is equivalently ardent on the purported left actually have way more in common than you have differences between you. That's my claim. You might say, well, Eric, you're just using your own anecdotal experience to prove that. And I'd say, yep. And it falsifies your point. The fact that it's anecdotal doesn't mean it doesn't falsify your point. No, we shouldn't be investing resources into children as this big group centralized activity. It's fucking stupid. Education should be individuated by the student. First and foremost, right? In other words, the student's individual talents, interests, and needs should drive their education. Let children begin early on doing real things. If you want to teach a child to write, have them have a blog or some other published thing that's real. Hal Taylor, for Christ's sakes, why do I have to hear this stupid shit all the time? Why do people have to say stupid shit to me all the time? Let's go back to how Elon Musk is so dumb. Today I'm shitting on two different kinds of T's, okay? I'm shitting on Socrates' NETI for being stupid and ignoring the fact that asking questions is not a way to teach people things. And I'm shitting on Elon Musk for his stupid TE and people mistaking that for intelligence. Elon Musk is not a smart person. Okay? It's just all there is to it. He has no good ideas. He just has successfulness. You know, that's not the same thing as intelligence. Whatever you want to call intelligence, right? If cognitive type is the only thing that separates people, then people would identify each other by cognitive functions to be racist towards type. Well, that's true. But at least then there's 16 different groups and they have genuine common ground. In other words, if you get your group of ESFPs, then they genuinely all don't care about whether things make any sense. So at least they're all on the same page. Yeah, I know. Elon wanted to put a big tunnel under Los Angeles. It just ignores smart solutions to the same problem. It's like I picture Elon Musk driving to work in Tesla. I'm getting stuck on the 405 and going, I've got it! A big tunnel! I'm a genius! It's like you have to be pretty stupid to publicly announce that you have this new good idea. And it'd be a great big tunnel underneath Los Angeles. That is an idea every person in Los Angeles has had while driving in the car. And immediately dismissed it as stupid because it makes so much more sense to go up. And but only one man was dumb enough to think that's a good idea I should let everybody know about. That was Elon Musk. The only person who is dumb enough to, not if you go above, not just a level above the existing freeway, there's already no buildings there. You don't have to even do any eminent domain shit. You just have another layer of freeway above. They do it in some parts of Northern California on the bridges, at least. Remember, this is how we know Elon Musk is super dumb. After people had invented electric cars, and various car companies were selling them, he came out and said, wait, everybody, the genius is here. I've got a great idea. I'm going to make electric cars. That's not your idea. That's not an idea. That's just you making electric cars. There's nothing smart about that. It's just Socrates is the worst teacher, yeah. Or at least, put it this way. The Socratic method is not a way to teach people. Okay? The Socratic method is a stupid thing that people mistake for a means of teaching. It is either a way to get your students to do their own intuitive leaps. If they're already intuitives, fine. Yeah, Elon Musk is so dumb, he shot an electric car into outer space. That's how dumb he is. Why? Again, Elon Musk, I've got a great idea. I'm going to go to outer space. That's not an idea, Elon Musk. That's just, a desired future. It's self-landing recyclable rockets. It's like none of these ideas are new. If you've read any sort of science fiction or anything, none of these ideas are new. None of these ideas are disruptive. You know how people talk about disruptive technologies coming in and new ideas genuinely disrupting the existing status quo? What I'm trying to do with politics is that I'm coming in with a genuinely better approach, a genuinely anti-agenda approach that is genuinely not being spoken by anybody currently. This is what it sounds like when you encounter somebody who's smart. They surprise you with the newness of their ideas. Hi, Dad.
See you tonight. Well, I won't see you tonight. I'll call you tonight.
Okay, I'll talk to you tonight.
I'll see you Thursday noonish.
Okay, cool. Have fun driving the new car. I mean, you could say that smoking is inattentive to long-term concerns and needs, but you wouldn't say it's a matter of intelligence. That's fine. You're welcome to play devil's advocate around here. Everybody's welcome to devil's advocate all they want. I think one of Trump's best ideas as president, and I wish he had been able to do it, was acquiring Greenland. If we could acquire Greenland, that's a great idea. Now that's better than any idea Elon Musk has ever had. And Trump is not a smart man either. But that's a good idea. Right? If Trump had been able to acquire Greenland, I would actually have totally I would consider him to have won the overall war for the presidency, in my opinion. I would say overall it was a positive presidency if he had acquired Greenland. That was a good idea. That's what good ideas sound like. I'd never heard of that before. Nobody had ever said, let's acquire Greenland. That I had ever heard, you know? It's like, that's a good idea. That's Trump outsmarting Elon Musk. So you know Elon Musk is a dumb man. No, because the concept isn't understood yet, right? It's not just a matter of working out a couple of kinks to make it happen. It's conceptually not understood at all. There's no science fiction book that explains a time machine. They just create the narrative device of allowing people to move back and forth in time. I'm going to find a wife based off my first grade and kindergarten teachers. I just thought of this now. I will say about does smoking cigarettes really cause so many bad effects, or is it overhyped by researchers and government? I mean, both. Right. So there is, you know, we are looking at a future in which there's something that functionally looks like information time travel with quantum computing. In other words, we can go back in time and decide that something went the other way, and so the answer is the other answer. I don't exactly understand it, but I've read. I typically always read. You know how Google News is an what's it called? An amalgamator? No. You know, it gathers things from different sources. What's that called? Anyway, Google News is a site I use to get news from, and an aggregator. Thank you. I will get about the cigarettes. Okay. An aggregator. Yeah. So anyway, it also learns what you like to read about, and then gives you more of those kind of stories. Well, and as a process, you kind of learn what you like to learn to read about. I've learned that I read a lot of your transgender Rand Paul video, huh? So, you know, I've learned that I read a lot of articles on quantum science because I find it fascinating, even though I don't quite understand it really. And I read a lot of articles on poker. It always gives me articles on like stories about the one guy who lost 18 million playing poker on full tilt poker, the Malaysian billionaire whose total losses equal close to $30 million. I read stories like that. I find them interesting. I like to read about poker. I like to watch poker. I like to play poker, but I'm not good at poker. So I don't play very often because obviously if you're not good at poker, then you lose money every time you play poker, which is me. I'm the guy who loses money every time he plays poker. Like and then like once every 10 times, maybe I'll win and I'll go like, ooh, maybe now I'm good at poker. And then no, you're still bad at poker. Look, the idea of the Holy Trinity, I am going to get back to the cigarettes question. There's a lot of interesting things going on here. The idea of the Holy Trinity is you've got old God, new God, and God that ever was. The old God is definitely NTJ. New God is, I would say, NFP. And God that always was is subsumes all the types, you know? But as far as values integrated, it's NTJs that are integrated. NTJ values are integrated into the Bible first in the Old Testament. And then NFP values and NTP values are integrated in the New Testament. Okay, well, the concept of the Holy Trinity can be broken down as old God, new God, God that always was. Whether or not you agree with the Holy Trinity is another question, Leaf Trimmer, but my description of it is correct. You might say the Holy Trinity is blasphemy and not to be heard by anybody or whatever, but nevertheless, my description of it is correct. That's how Catholics understand it anyway. So, I mean, I'm just speaking from a secular perspective here about what is perceived to mean, not from a religious perspective, okay? Do I agree that Adam in Genesis is ISTP? Really hard to type Adam. He doesn't have a lot of lines, you know? He's a pretty minor character, frankly. Eve has a lot more going on in Genesis than Adam does. Now, you might say that's indicative of a lack of extroverted intuition by Adam. But you could say instead it's just a abundance of introverted intuition. Maybe he's an anidom. He's just sort of sitting in the Garden of Eden, being one with things and ignoring his woman as she goes and fools around with the devil. I'm not making that assertion myself. I'm saying that's how Catholicism understands the Holy Trinity. Personally, I don't disagree with it, but I don't care to defend it because it's magical thinking frame stuff. Regardless, that's how the Catholics understand it. Can we agree on that? Because, well, I don't remember how the topic came up. Let me get back to cigarettes. I'm all over the place this morning. Oh, I know, because somebody asked basically about what values. Okay, but Leaf Trimmer, you're not answering my question. Can we agree that that's how the Catholics understand it? Regardless of anything else. I mean, you don't have to, I don't have to affirm something to reference it, right? I'm referencing an understanding of the Holy Trinity. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm affirming that understanding. Well, I know it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And if you ask Catholics to distinguish between those, well, what's the difference between the Father and the Holy Spirit? Isn't there just one God? I thought it was monotheistic, right? And they say, well, that represents three aspects of divinity. The old aspect of divinity is talked about in the Old Testament. The new aspect of divinity talked about in the New Testament. Because remember, divinity did gain a new aspect when the Son of God was born, right? And the all-encompassing God that is one. That's how they would express it. One God in three persons. The Holy Spirit's not perceived to be a person, nor is the Father. Only Jesus is perceived to be a person. I don't know why I'm having these ridiculous theological discussions with you, because I'm not even making any kind of controversial statement. Okay, so you think Catholics think that God, that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are all people? That's your perception. Is that what you think Catholics think? That Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit are all people? That was what you said. Is that what you said? Is that what you were saying, Leaf Trimmer? Because it's what you said. But are you saying that? Answer my question. Are you saying that Catholics believe that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are all people? Because if you're saying that, then you're just talking out your ass. I agree everybody has the right to perceive it however they want. I'm not talking about how you should perceive it, and I keep getting back to here. I'm talking about how it is perceived. One God in three persons. Okay, well, whatever. The point is, one possible way, however you want to, whoever might, maybe it's Eric, I don't know. One possible way, I didn't make this up, but one possible way you could perceive it is old God, new God, God that always was. And I heard that from Catholic source. So whether or not that's representative of a common perception in Catholicism or an alternate perception, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. It's a possible way to perceive it. For fuck's sake. So when discussing type values as expressed in the Bible, it's important to distinguish between the Old Testament and the New Testament. I did not make that up. I did not. If I had made it up, I would take credit for it. I think it's a great idea. I like the idea a lot. If I had made it up, I would take credit for it. Believe me. I did not make it up. Somebody else told me that, and it was a Catholic. I believe it was my first wife. But no, I did not make it up. But I think it's a great idea. Because to dispute the fact that the God in the Old Testament is starkly distinct from the God in the New Testament is to lie to yourself in the most aggressive and relentless fashion. So if you want to lie to yourself in the most aggressive and relentless fashion, Leaf Trimmer, go ahead. But you're the one who's attached to the book, not me. I mean, is there any sane person who can actually try to claim that the God and the values thereof of the Old Testament are not clearly distinct and markedly different from those of the New Testament? Is there anybody who's going to try to say that with a straight face? If so, they are aggressively and relentlessly lying to themselves. I agree. That's why I'm not trying to talk about religion or God. I'm talking about it from a secular perspective. These are understandings we might take about the Bible rather than the only acceptable perception about it, as Leaf Trimmer seems to want to play. I'm not affirming anything here. Remember, I don't believe that you should believe in my magical thinking frame. No, she was not a modernist Catholic. Her mother was born in Michoacan, Mexico. She was an old school Mexican Catholic. There's nothing moderate about it. That's very old school. She insisted before we got married that I agreed to allow my child to be raised Catholic. No, she wasn't a good Catholic. I agree. She cheated. She's a bad person, sure. But she was a conservative Catholic. She was an old school Catholic. She wasn't a modernist Catholic, as Leaf Trimmer accused her of. Leaf Trimmer seems to think that if you've got sufficiently fundamentalist beliefs in your religion, then you won't engage in the sins that your religion prohibits. But that's not true. as a secularist, I was vastly more moral than my Catholic wife. And now I'm not a secularist anymore, but my level of morality hasn't really been impacted by that substantially. I mean, it has on the positive end. Like, in other words, I now feel like I have positive moral obligations, whereas I didn't used to. I used to feel as though I had negative moral obligations. Whereas my ex-wife didn't adhere to her negative moral obligations. Her behavior and her belief system were not in accordance with each other. So that's not surprising. Like Hal Taylor says, right? It's not surprising that an old school conservative fundamentalist style Catholic would in fact cheat on me and divorce me. Not surprising. I mean, we stayed together for 9 months after found out she cheated because she really wanted to avoid divorce.
Oh.
Well, Lee Trimmer, regardless of whether or not she had a misunderstanding, her misunderstanding could not accurately be expressed as a modernist understanding of Catholicism. Correct or not? And that's what you claimed. So, again, don't shift ground. I'm making this point for a reason. It's been made. Yeah, she did get remarried, and then she got divorced again. My daughter says that she's cheated on everybody she's been with. So she said, don't feel bad, Dad. She's cheated on everybody she's been with. Well, let me tell you this much, Leaf Trimmer. Back when I was with that woman, there's zero chance that she had read any Gnostic shit, okay? The internet was barely even, it occupied very little of anyone's time back then. I think she was an ISFP. So if she encountered that and its sourcage is originally Gnostic, she was not aware of that. And to call Gnosticism a modernist twist on Catholicism is a strange argument to make indeed, isn't it? Why is that modernist? How is Gnosticism modernist? I don't think all ISFPs are cheaters, but I do think that your SFPs have to rely on character a lot more to not be cheaty. I am going to get back to the cigarettes thing eventually. So it's like, I don't think Rachel and I have to use hardly any self-discipline to remain faithful and comfortable in a relationship. I think SFPs require themselves to use self-discipline to stay faithful because of the way they engage in the world, because of the way they engage with their feelings and doings first, and the way they engage with other people. They find themselves in tempting situations a lot because they don't go into it frame first. Whereas meta-analysts, we go into it frame first. So I don't even consider, it's like, I already know a whole slew of behaviors that aren't going to happen no matter what, and other shit, like it's like an old school library index card thing almost. It feels like, of cascading rules. Okay, so yeah, so okay. The thing is then, Leaf Trimmer, I think we can agree that if she wasn't aware that it was a Gnostic interpretation, that even if it wasn't a legitimate Catholic interpretation, it doesn't comprise her attempting to have some sort of modernist interpretation of Catholicism. It's just she had been told something incorrect by somebody at some point. Anyway, regardless, I didn't make up the idea. Now the cigarette topic. So are cigarettes actually bad for you, or is the danger overhyped by the government? Both. They are actually bad for you. It's like from an SI level, you can just tell there's kind of like poisonous. It's like a sweet kind of poison. You know, you can tell they're poisonous in the same way you can tell alcohol is poisonous. It just, your body has to process it out. Obviously, it's not good for your lungs, and I think that emphysema is a genuine risk for people. So I don't think they're good for you. But the thing is this. What usually very much surprises people is the truth about lung cancer. 1 out of every 320 cigarette smokers contract lung cancer, compared to about 1 out of every 10,000 non-smokers. So you are substantially more likely to get lung cancer if you're a smoker, but you're vastly more likely to not get lung cancer and be a smoker than you are to get lung cancer and be a smoker. In other words, for every one smoker who gets lung cancer, 319 smokers don't. And that's not something that the public information campaigns would lend one to believe, although they don't actually lie to you, right? So the thing about those public health campaigns is they frame the data in the most damning way they can, but they don't actually really directly lie to you. So they'll say you're 20 times more likely than a non-smoker to get lung cancer or something, which is probably true, but still very unlikely. Much less than 1%. I'm more likely to die of COVID than I am of lung cancer from smoking. So that shows you how completely not likely that is to happen. Heart disease is something that is that cigarette smoking relates to, but is not directly a cause of. So what I mean by that is somebody like me who has consistently, not low blood pressure, but like never high blood pressure. It's always right on the money, like 120/75 or whatever. Cigarette smoking is not a substantial increase of risk for me for heart disease because I'm underweight. So the main thing about heart disease is when your heart has to push your blood through more body, it has to do more work. That's as simple as that. You might say, well, Eric, you've got a lot of body to push through. You've got a lot of height to push it up and down, But but I don't have much fat on me. My body fat index is very low. So as a consequence, my risk of heart disease is very low. Smoking cigarettes, therefore, isn't aggravating an existing risk factor. And as a consequence, it has almost nothing to do with my heart health. So in other words, the answer is it's a complicated question. Are cigarettes unhealthy? Yes. Are their risks overblown? Well, they're generalized too much for sure. So if I'm already obese and I start smoking, it's a much worse health impact for me than if I'm me and I'm smoking. And that's just how life is. It's not fair, but it's what it is. Also, I have an incredibly massive lung capacity. When I had a lung exam one time after I went to a doctor, and he recommended that I go to get a lung exam because I was a smoker. And it turns out that my lung capacity is amazing. It's like It's way better than most non-smokers after smoking for 20 years. So the thing is, we have a lot of reason, 30 years, we have a lot of reasons to conclude statistically that it's not generally a good idea for people to smoke. But we have to remember, whenever we want to speak meaningfully about any topic, that there is no general person who is impacted statistically by things. There are individuals. So in other words, there's not really any percent chance I'm going to get lung cancer. There's 100% chance I'm going to get it or a 0% chance. It's not a probability-based kind of thing. Similarly, the weather. There's not a 50% chance it's going to rain tomorrow. There's a 100% chance or a 0% chance. What we're actually using percentages for there and probabilities for there is to describe our own level of confidence in our prediction. But we're not actually discussing something that's measured correctly by a probability. If we're talking about something that's measured correctly by a probability, we're talking about something that occurs in instances of independent trials. So, in other words, if I want to tell you the probability of drawing a certain card out of the deck, and I want that to be accurate across the trials, I have to put the card I pull out back into the deck, reshuffle every time. Then I can accurately give you some sort of probabilistic frame of reference to use to understand it. It's not possible to meaningfully use a probabilistic frame of reference for things that have only a binary existence. It's either a 100% chance or a 0% chance. Using probability for those things is weird because there's not multiple instances. There aren't independent trials of the same thing. You have one life. You either get it or you don't. It's not like, the probability thing is saying, well, if you live this life exact same way 50 times, you would get lung cancer how many times? But of course, that the antecedent to that conditional is an illogical impossibility. It's a logical impossibility. So it just fundamentally doesn't make any sense to ask the question. People misapply probability like that all the time. It's frustrating for me as somebody who understands it well to see it happen, but it's so common I just don't generally bother even correcting it. You know what I'm saying?
Hi, baby. She knows what you're saying.
Thanks, kitty. You always do understand me.
Oh.
You understand me with your kitty heart and all your lovely meows. With your furry ways and whiskers too. You always make me say, wow, kitty friend. That little song right there is smarter than any idea Elon Musk has ever come up with. Okay? That little song right there was better than any idea Elon Musk has ever had.
I'd have to look for you.
Yeah, hindsight's always 20/20. We should have realized there was an 86% chance of this happening beforehand. There was not an 86% chance. It's like, obviously, if there's a hurricane coming to your city and you see it on the radar, you go, okay, batten down the hatches. Because it's likely to hit your city. In other words, it's likely there's a 100% chance it's going to hit your city. And it's unlikely that there's a 0% chance it's going to hit your city. And it's going to be one of those two. So yeah, I do have big lung capacity. I have noted that I think that Dave Sanderson is possibly affording too much plasticity towards the idea of lung capacity, because my lung capacity was massive even as a kid. I was best able to sustain a note in choir for the longest period of time without breathing. I like won that contest. So I know I had that piece of evidence to know that my lung capacity was always big. Well, let's see. No, batting average is not a statistical probability thing. Batting average is a statistical description. That's different. To say somebody's hitting 347 is not to say they have a 35% chance of getting a hit this time. It is to say that they've gotten hits 35% of the time heretofore. That's a different sort of thing. I think Demi Lovato has good lung capacity. I don't think people do look at it that way in baseball. I mean, I think they look at it in the sense like, well, if he's got a good batting average, he's more likely to get a hit. He's our guy. He'll come through for us. Come on, Joe, batting 365. You're hot. You're gonna hit. People talk like that all the time, but I don't think people actually go when they watch people come up to bat. Okay, so there's a 35% chance this guy's gonna get a hit. I've never thought about it like that actually before. It's funny that you bring up baseball like that, because despite being well aware of, learning about baseball from a young age via baseball cards. When I was a little boy, baseball cards were still something that boys collected. And I had a lot of baseball cards, and I looked at all the numbers on the back of them, and I grew to understand baseball statistics. My mom was a big baseball fan, and so I've spent a lot of time with baseball, and I've never once in my life thought that because somebody has a whatever average coming up to bat, that means they have that percent chance of getting a hit. I've never thought that. It's never crossed my mind. The philosopher that came closest to the truth was Aristotle. Was he a good teacher, though? I hope he was a better teacher than Socrates. That guy was a terrible teacher. Like saying, Socrates' style of teaching, if it were applied to the provision of electricity, you'd plug something in, and then you get a phone call, and it'd be the electric company. Do you really need to plug this in? Yes. Why? Well, because I want to turn it on. But why? Okay, Socrates, can you just shoot some electricity into my device, please? To say of what is that it is, or of what is not that it is not, is true. To say of what is that it is, or of what is not that it is not, is true. What is... What a silly quote, right? But it's just basically saying it's the law of the excluded middle, right? All Aristotle is saying there is the law of the excluded middle. Not A. There's not A, and there's A. Okay? And there's no sort of A. All right? Sort of A is not allowed. I refuse to accept sort of A. Okay, well, in law school, it's fine for it to be used because you better be a smart intuitive in order to be a successful lawyer. But that's law school. Law school is an appropriate place for the Socratic method. Because if the lawyers, if I'm going to be a truly good lawyer, and if I were to go to law school, I would expect of myself to be smarter and win all the arguments with my professors. I would expect that of myself as a minimum qualification for law school, that I'd have to already be capable of defeating my professors in any kind of argumentation. But that's just because I'm not really that interested in being a lawyer.
Showing off the lung capacity.
See, there is an area where the Socratic method really works.
Not that I know.
No, I'm going to tell you one right now. It works really well. Here's where it really works. my lungs ask me a question. Where's the THC? I then use my intuition to discover the answer. It's in the bong.
Oh.
Now, having used the Socratic method to teach myself where the THC is, I take that knowledge and move forward to provide the answer back to my lungs in the form of a bong rip. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever read Aristotle. At least not at any length, you know. I mean, the thing is, I've read like one page of every philosopher there is, but I've never really read any big philosopher like book, you know. So being a debate coach means I have this this document called Values A to Z, which is like, how many pages is it? It's so long. Let me see. I'll see if I can share this document with you guys if I have it in docs. I think I might only have it in. No, I don't have it in here. I'll get it from over here. So, Values A to Z is a great document to help people understand how competition debate works, because it's so ridiculous. That's why. It's hilariously ridiculous. It's 725 pages of cut cards so like the table of contents. Here's the table of contents. Activism good. Social activism works. Many examples prove social activism is successful. Activism bad. Activism fails. The Buddhist critique. Even if activism is successful, it ultimately fails. Altruism good. Altruism is a paramount value. Altruism should be supported as the highest value. Altruism bad. Upholding altruism hurts society. Altruism is not most important. Anarchism good. Anarchism bad. Annihilating nihilism. Animal rights good. Animal rights bad. Animal rights responses. Autonomy good. Autonomy good. Autonomy bad. Biocentrism. You see what I'm saying? It's hilarious, right? It's absolutely hilarious. So when I say I've read like one page from every philosopher, I'm serious. I'm not just making that up. You don't need to read a whole philosopher. You just need to read the part of it that you use as an argument. Right? Everybody should have this document. I never occurred to me until this moment just how important it is that everybody have this document. Everybody in the world should have this document. Values A to Z. Because you can, whatever anybody's arguing about, you've got a bunch of cards. Why did the server reject it? Too big? I have to open it. I have to upload it in Google Drive. New. File. Okay, now I'm going to share. Get link. Anyone with the link. Copy link. Done. Okay, so yeah, values A to Z. Couldn't preview this in Google Docs. You're not going to be able to preview it in Google Docs because it's too big. I'm able to preview it in Dropbox, interestingly. What's also interesting about Dropbox, I don't think I've paid for Dropbox in like 10 years and I still have it. I don't know. Here. There's values A to Z. There's values A to Z. That's a fun document. Okay? So it's like somebody comes at you with some capitalism bad shit. You go, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ready-made cards. Capitalism has created industrial progress. Capitalism creates equality. Capitalism decreases tyranny. Capitalism is fundamentally a moral system. Discrimination is not caused by capitalism. So that's an AT, right? Capitalism increases political freedom. Capitalism increases world peace. Capitalism is the most efficient economic system. Capitalism does not create political inequality. You read all those cards. Of course, if you want to argue against capitalism, the next thing is capitalism bad. Capitalism creates waste and destruction. Capitalism is oppressive to women. Capitalism is detrimental to a healthy economy. Capitalism results in discrimination. Capitalism creates violence. Capitalism results in a breakdown of society. Capitalism exploits the working class. So this is why I'm so reasonable about things, basically. You know, it's like the reason I'm so reasonable is because I view all issues through this kind of frame of reference, you know? Okay, so I'm going to yeah, it's a Word document. It's an old Word document, and Google Drive won't preview it. It won't. You can't preview it in Google Drive. It won't open in Google Docs. So you may have to convert it first to a .docx, and I'm not quite sure how to do it. Dropbox opens it and previews it adequately. If you have, say, OpenOffice or Word, that should be able to open it. But you can't preview it in Google Docs. It's too big. It's 700 and some odd pages, and it's got all kinds of, I think, anchors and stuff in it too. So, okay, I'm going to wrap this up and talk to Rachel a bit, sort of see what we want to do for the day. I'm got a couple of things in mind maybe, so I'll follow up later with some more exciting information. A to Z opens in Word. Okay, so basically, if you ever engage in arguments on the internet with people, and you can identify what it is they're arguing, like they're basically arguing pro-nihilism or pro-animal rights or whatever, you can just pull that shit up and read like a bunch of cards against it, whatever it is. If you don't care about the truth at all. If you're an amoral debater type, then you can do that. I don't do that anymore, by the way. But I don't think it's bad to do necessarily inherently. I think it's part of the growth process of learning. But I genuinely don't. I don't argue things I don't believe anymore. Except I'll coach my kids to argue things they don't believe. But I won't myself argue things I don't believe in real life anymore. So okay, goodbye everybody. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese, as Pauly Shore might say.